The You Can Say That Here podcast would like to thank our sponsor, Employment Tutors. Employment Tutors is your go-to destination when you want to get promoted, become a better leader, or set yourself up for success after college. You can visit employmenttutors.com or receive free access to a live small group coaching session by emailing coach@employmenttutors.com and putting "You Can Say That Here" in the subject line.
You can say that here.
You're on, baby.
So yeah, I don't know what I got into this week, but I'm going to try to share this in a way that makes sense. I don't think it's going to work. So yesterday I'm driving and there's a car coming the other way, just a regular old gray sedan driving the other way. And I'm looking at it and there was nothing special about it at all. But my brain suddenly says to me, something's wrong with it. And I'm trying to figure it out. And then I realized the problem that my brain is telling me with this car is that it doesn't have arms.
What were you smoking while you were driving?
You know,
that's against the law.
I was stone cold sober. So have you ever seen, I'm not saying this to be ableist or a jerk or anything, but have you ever seen a person with no arms? Or even one arm? Yeah. Okay. Sure. So when you look at that person, you can't help yourself. There's a little bit of a shock to the system. There's a little cognitive dissonance that goes along with that. Like your brain is saying that person is supposed to have two arms. Of course, this is not a conscious thing, but in the back of your brain somewhere, it's going like, there's supposed to be two arms, but I'm only seeing one arm. Am I seeing that right?
In my head, I keep remembering you're talking about a car.
Yeah, and it all happens. No, but when you see a person like this, it's totally normal to be like, oh, okay, all right, now I'm used to it. It's fine. Gotcha. So my brain did the same thing, except with a car.
Whacked. Was it missing the rear view mirrors, maybe?
I don't think so. Maybe, but I don't think so.
Ooh, Shannon. Welcome to the show, Shannon Boyle. You know how to start off. That was so logical. I can't even
because eyewitness testimony is so faulty. I don't remember, but I really don't think so because I took a really good look at the car. Maybe it was, though. Maybe somebody had stupidly removed their rearview mirrors, both of them.
I think we really need to go back a little and talk about what happened leading up to seeing this armless car.
Nothing.
Great question.
I mean, you weren't smoking a little of those funny cigarettes, my friend?
I have no idea what you're talking about. No, I was driving home from work. I had not partaken of any extracurricular substances. And,
what do you do for work?
Well, I'm a pot tester. I smoke weed all day.
Now we're getting somewhere.
I work at an LSD factory. No,
the best part, Shannon, is he's got Jesus works for him.
That's right.
Oh, I'd like to hear about that.
Yeah, my
What's
HVAC
his role?
He fixes air conditioners.
Not that exciting when you put it that way. Hey, can we just take a minute we have to start this podcast.
Yes.
Forget.
Go ahead, Colleen.
Welcome to You Can Say That Here. Today's special guest is Shannon Boyle from deep down in the south of the great United States. We have Andrew Levesque, our provocateur, and just little me, Colleen Ferrari. Welcome. Please subscribe, hit like, all that cool stuff. There's some bell on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the bell, do what it takes. But our goal, we made our goal of adding 11 new listeners last week, so we're pretty excited. We're hoping maybe today we'll add 5 more.
When they find out Shannon's on, we're going to double what we currently have, I think.
Let's do
All right. Well, just her vibration and energy alone are going to bring 100 new followers. Hey, we got it. We cannot start this out without talking about Uvalde. I mean, I don't want to start on a bad note, but
But you are.
I
So let's go
am.
with it.
Well, you know what? I got people fired up a little bit this week
Mm.
because, of course, but like, so one thing that I've noticed about like all of these killers is that they were bullied in high school. I'm like, there's some real, like, we're talking about gun control. Hey, I don't know where you guys land in the gun debate. You want to talk about that? This is where you insert crickets when you do the post production, Andy.
Mm.
No, but
I
that's
actually have a lot to say on this topic.
Well,
all right.
so all I'm going to say is I think that we should make an attempt at talking about it, and you should feel free to say whatever.
Because Shannon, you can't say that here.
That's right.
I don't have a lot on the topic of gun control. I have a lot on the topic of the educational system.
I think it's a two-pronged effect. So go, girl, because we're probably thinking about the same things.
So you noticed during COVID, when everything was in lockdown, we weren't seeing mass shootings, correct? Like they just sort of disappeared. And I come from a health and nutrition and mental wellness background. And I had this, so I'm gonna let y'all know, because you can say this here. I get downloads, I hear stuff, right? Like I just get information. I don't take it as my personal thoughts. I just receive. And I had this like boom in my face that, so for the last 10 years, I've been in the nutritional realm. And when I first started, I used to get mocked. I used to get resistance. It was not yet accepted as just the norm. And prior to that, the generation before me came through for the physical movement importance. And our parents' generation thought like, that's so stupid. Like, why do you got to go to a gym? Like, just move your body. Like, it wasn't normal until it became normal. So I knew once this nutrition piece took hold, the next piece behind that is the educational system. It's so broken. And we're here. We are here. COVID shined a big bright light on it. And so I'm watching like when the schools were shut down, these mass shootings weren't happening. There's something that's happening inside that institution. I
do think, Shannon, people could
wellness.
argue there's no mass shootings in schools because nobody was in school. But there was
but they didn't replace. They didn't displace to another area. Is what I'm saying. Like they didn't just show
Shannon,
up.
So that's actually, according to, I just looked that up real quick because I didn't know, because I thought you were correct on that. And I'm looking at it and I haven't dug into this, but it says, according to a CNN film called The Price of Freedom that they allegedly researched, researchers focused on data between April 2020 and July 2021 from the Gun Violence Archive on mass shootings in which 4 or more people were killed or injured, not including the shooter. In that 15-month period, there were 343 more mass shootings, 217 people killed, 1,498 people injured in the U.S. than expected.
Wait, I need us all to breathe for a moment because I think Andy Levesque just quoted mass media.
I did, because it was the first thing that came up on Google. So no, but I didn't know.
That's totally true.
No, I didn't know, because like you, Shannon, I was paying attention to the news, during the whole COVID lockdown, pre-lockdown, post-lockdown, and I don't recall hearing a lot about mass shootings. But according to this one thing, shooting incidents up, 64% over what they expected. So maybe it's a factor of what we were paying attention to or what was being reported. I don't know. But I hope that I'm sure that sticks a pin in the argument, but I think you were making a wider point about, so I'm sorry to interrupt, but please continue.
No, that was it. So,
well, I do think there's something to this. So Shannon, I think like we go, these schools, they don't know how to handle what's going on right now. Like we have kids, right? Look at, my daughter has ADD. During COVID, it was a hot mess, right? So I'm like, all right, I've got to get her some medicine. Like we've been able to manage this and that, just doing some other stuff to try to manage this condition. We never wanted to put her on medication. but during COVID, it was one of those impossible moments. The poor child, like, she was like, oh, I missed my homework. She couldn't even focus during one class, let alone 8. And I went and I called and I'm like, okay, how do I get her, Vyvanse or whatever? And they're like, oh, well, you have to see a psychiatrist. I'm like, could not find a psychiatrist. So I went to our medical group. She was put on a waiting list. She was number 812 on the waiting list, right? So here we have a huge gap in professional availability. Finally, her pediatrician was able to, just give her something to help her until we could get, like, through a friend of a friend, get a psychiatric nurse to prescribe it. It's just this whole crazy thing. But then when I look at schools and I look at how we handle bullying at school and all these mass shooters, like, one common thread is, now I'm not saying if you're bullied, this came up like, oh, well, this is a gross, exaggeration. Everybody that's bullied becomes evil and becomes a mass murderer. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying we have two things. One, if I'm bipolar, if I have mental illness, I can go in and buy an assault weapon. I don't know that that should be the case, right? I think we need to do a little more work there with gun control. I believe everybody has a right to bear arms. However, we had muskets when it was raid,
No,
right?
stop with the muskets. That's nonsense.
But it isn't like, I think people are going to find a way to kill no matter what, if they want to kill someone. But I think we have a right to protect ourselves, but we need to be a little more discerning on how we this kid on his 18th, like a couple days after his 18th birthday, goes and buys 2 assault weapons and body armor. Come on, right? So there is a problem. But when we look at the mass murderers, like people who have really done some real damage, they all had been bullied in middle school or high school. And I'm like, okay, we need to look at this. So right now, and it's a true story in my community, a child was bullied, and we're talking like 2019. This is not that long ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. This child is being bullied at school. They go to the counselor, and the counselor said, well, I can give you some schools to transfer to. And I'm like, what? And then they said, here's your other option. You can identify the students to us that are bullying you, and your life isn't going to get better in this situation. We're going to go talk to them and say, hey, Colleen, you can no longer bully Shannon Boyle, or you're going to be expelled. So what does that do to the child being bullied, right? Puts a target on their back. Now all of a sudden these kids are being talked to, and it's Shannon Boyle's fault. We're not solving anything here, right? This is how our school systems manage bullying. So now here's some, the kids are bullying this child in front of teachers. They're calling her names in front of teachers. No teacher responds or reacts. The kid is having food thrown at them in the cafeteria. No teachers respond. Now, I know this is complicated, but unfortunately, I don't know like how we arm our teachers, but I do think that we need to think about, here's a real, like, these kids are being isolated. And as we're going into this cult conversation and we're talking about sense of belonging, like, these are kids that have been targeted and they're getting revenge. Like,
can I share? Oh, yeah. Can I share a story?
Of course.
So my son was in high school and he was being bullied by a teacher. Yeah.
That is not the first time I've heard that, which is crazy.
Oh no.
Coaches, teachers.
We pulled him. He homeschooled for the second half of high school. That's a whole nother podcast, but he was being bullied by the gym teacher, and we went to the principal. We sat there. We came out of that meeting just so upset because we felt like her hands were tied. We felt like she was a politician. She like said all the right things on the surface. She couldn't tell us what the repercussions were going to be. She's like, I'm not allowed to tell you what actions we're going to take with him, all these things, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, thank God. I wish I had the wisdom back then. I didn't have it. we polled him. We gave him a choice. Like, what do you want to do? Like, he decided, he was an athlete. He had to leave the sport to homeschool. And we were like, we're going to support you. You get to make this decision. We lost faith in the adults in the institution to mentor. Like, these are our mentors for our children, and it's broken from the top. Fast forward a couple of years, I heard it kept going. A family sued him.
Really?
Like, damn.
Well, I look at my daughter's school. There's 1,400 kids in the high school that she goes to, and there's 4, maybe 6 counselors. I mean, the math doesn't add up, especially in times like this. Andy, I can't believe you're not weighing in. Is it because we won't shut up?
Yes. Well, you seem to have hit the nail on the head. No,
your daughter is a school psychologist. I mean, your wife is a school psychologist.
She is.
Where is Mare? Get Mare in here.
Yeah, no. She's busy right now. She's going to visit her mom. But I'm sure I could get her opinion on this at some point. And she does do quite a bit of counseling and research on these things. And so it would be interesting to talk to her about this specific topic. But, it's an incredibly complex issue. Like, to go way back, your point is not every kid that gets bullied ends up being a school shooter, but every school shooter was bullied, right? Mm-hmm. So
exactly,
that's one thing. And my concern is, maybe I'm 100 yards up, but people have always had access to firearms. This 18-year-olds have been able to buy firearms since the early 70s. School shootings have exponentially increased. Like, nobody ever shot up a school. There have been only 13 school shootings since something like 1950. Like, things that qualify, if you look at the way the CDC and whoever defines these things, there's been 13. So you'll hear that there's been 347 school shootings just this year, but that's because in the south side of Chicago, they're shooting each other in a school zone. That counts as a school shooting.
Oh man, I have seen that firsthand. Like, when I lived in Chicago.
So that's one of the things you got to pick apart, like the way these things are talked about. Just, Shannon and I being confused about how many shootings happened during COVID. It seemed like nothing happened during COVID because they weren't being reported.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
where they shine in the light.
Yeah. So what do we know? Like, there's millions of things going on that we have no idea what's going on. So that's a huge problem. I mean, one of the things that I've started to think about is, we call it a public school. It's really a government school because it's a very top down, and you're starting to see all these schools pulling away from the federal level.
Common Core.
Yeah, Common Core. You're seeing them pulling away, trying to do their own things, which is probably good and bad. But school shooters have increased significantly in the last 20 years. So we'll go back before Sandy Hook. I think there was a bad one. I don't have them all memorized.
Columbine was before Sandy Hook, right?
Yeah, Columbine was really the one that started. It was like 96, I think, or 94 at the earliest. So what's changed in the culture? What's changed so that this is what people are doing now? When they had this opportunity, no one ever shot up schools in the 80s. Schools have been soft targets for forever. They're much harder targets now. I mean, look at Sandy Hook. Adam Lanza shot his way in. I mean, the school was hardened up a little bit. So the tactics you always hear are ban assault rifles. Well, what the hell does that mean? What's that actually going to accomplish? The proliferation of weapons, when we call them weapons, there's so many guns out there now. You could pass all these feel good, do something gun laws. It's not going to change anything. It really isn't. It's a do something maneuver. You hear people say, well, we have to harden schools and put resource officers in there. Okay, talk to Sandy Hook. Didn't help. This stuff that went on in Uvalde is blowing my mind, like with the cops being there for an hour and 15 minutes before they didn't do any. I don't even freaking know, man. I don't know what to believe with that one.
Right.
So what I did hear about the Uvalde kid was that there were plenty of people who saw something and said something ahead of time and said, this kid is fucking dangerous.
shit.
I mean, that's really like, doesn't that just go right through your whole entire body when you hear stuff like that? Like, why aren't we responding to things like that?
Hindsight is definitely 2020 with these things. You always hear like the guy that rammed his SUV through a Christmas parade in Waukesha, right? You always hear this guy. Well, he hated white people. He was a Muslim, whatever, terrorist, activist, whatever you want to call him. You hear all these things afterwards, but there's no clear indication. Like, he's not saying, I'm going to go out and kill a bunch of people in a Christmas parade. This kid literally was saying, I'm going to shoot up a school. So, the FBI knew about him. He'd been reported, right, and nothing happened. There was no intervention.
Well, I thought that school thing was I thought the shoot up a school thing was a private message to someone. Was that reported to the
when
FBI?
He was so a girl that was gaming, like he was on a gaming playing some Call of Duty or something online, and he was saying it, and she reported him to the see something say something line. And nothing happened. Now maybe there wasn't enough time, I don't know. But again, it's a super complex issue. It's just there's nothing possible good could come out of it. You're not learning anything. People that want to make it instantly political, like, well, we have to ban all guns, okay, that's not what we need to talk about right now.
I do think that we do have to figure out how to keep guns out of the hands of people who have mental illness or.
Look, I'm a gun owner. I'm a staunch supporter of 2A. I understand the purpose for 2A. And I am completely open to whatever the fuck common sense gun reform means. I've just never heard anybody say anything what that actually means. I don't know. And I'm ignorant of the subject of what common sense, quote unquote, gun reform means. I do believe that you could ban so-called AR-15s tomorrow and it would change nothing.
Well, Sammy the Bull Gravano, I know I brought this up last week, but Sammy the Bull Gravano said something really interesting about gun reform. He said, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, you ban guns. Guys like me, we're still going to get them. That's not going to ban us. That's not going to ban the bad guy. Yeah. Like, what is this? So I think that's an interesting comment.
Well, you
right?
take something away from somebody and what happens? They want it that much more.
So true.
Right?
I want to go back to like sense of belonging. And I think it goes like those three words, sense of belonging, it kind of rules everything that we do. It's kind of, we're going to talk about cults today, right? Sense of belonging lines up there. Like, I work with business owners and leaders every single day. And I'm like, okay, how do you make your team feel valued and appreciated? But more importantly, how do you make them feel connected? Right? How do they have a sense of belonging? How do they feel connected to you, your group, their company, the relationship they have within your four walls or within your business? That sense of belonging, I think, is super powerful. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I'm very interested in the conversation of the continuum between how do you create a community where people who are lost or hurt or broken experience a sense of belonging. How do you get from there to, volcano aliens are going to cover your skin with ghosts and give us all your money and fuck your family? That's the conversation I want to have. Like, how do you go from,
damn, I'm gonna need some coffee for that one.
Then how do you get from, hey, why don't you come to our company picnic and let's talk about your self-development? How do we get from that to like doing yoga and assembling a Kalashnikov? At the same time.
So I thought, as I was doing research on cults, and I'm thinking, I just don't get it. How do people like fall into this like victimhood or this place, and it was, so I did a little research and I thought, you always joke around and say, Colleen, you're going to be the first one to join a cult. I'm like,
I think you're trying to start one. Did I mention that?
What do you think Small Business USA is, baby?
I was saying, which one was that? What was the name of that one?
So there's three types of cult leaders, which I don't think I fall into any one of these three, maybe, but I don't think so. So cult leaders land in 3 different categories: the extreme narcissist, the preacher turned egomaniac.
What's the difference there? Distinction
You
without a
know,
difference.
I was wondering because I think as I was reading about it, they were talking about here there's preachers, and when they get banned from their church, they do something wrong, they have some negative, they get banned from the church, and they need that. Um, they kind of fall in love with those followers, and it just creates something in them that they're missing in this vacuum.
All right, what's
So,
the third thing?
and the third one is a delusional martyr, which is the most dangerous. Somebody who really believes their own shit. They believe that these aliens are going to come down from above and, steal them or help them get to the next level. You look at the Kool-Aid thing, right? Like that was Jim Jones, right? Like,
yeah, I don't subscribe to the third one because that involves mind reading, and I don't know that anybody knows whether these people are really believing their own shit or if they figured out a way to exploit others and maintain their position in the hierarchy. I don't think that third one really matters. I think that you find the one, they're all extreme narcissists right there. That's 100% of the time you have somebody who's incredibly self-important. But again, all narcissists are not cult leaders. So go ahead.
no, I think, well, I mean, keep going. I think that's kind of interesting. I mean, are they all psychopaths?
Well, I think there's a certain aspect of sociopathy. Yeah, I mean, you have to be somewhat sociopathic to convince people to leave their families and friends and rely on you for all their wisdom and decision making. Like the main thing a cult leader does is the followers have to outsource their thinking to the cult. They have to outsource their thinking to the group. That's one of the things that inevitably occurs. Shannon, you look like you have a thought.
No, I'm keep going. What do you mean by outsource their thinking though? That wasn't my thought, but
what I mean by outsourcing your thinking is you have your own system of, you have your own way of making value judgments, and you have your own morality, and you have your own beliefs and your own way of problem solving. And all of those mechanisms, as you're indoctrinated, your ability to critically think about anything is broken down because they fill you with doubt.
Yeah.
The purpose is to tell you like you're flawed, you're wrong, you're incorrect. These things are not the way they seem. The way you've seen the world is completely upside down. This is the way it really is. And eventually you have zero ability to make decisions or think for yourself.
I think what was fascinating when I was reading this is that there was people who were followers all had this like hole. They needed something to be filled. So, kind of that outsourcing your thinking piece. One thing that I also found interesting was with each cult, there's only one leader.
That's right.
There's that one person who is that bigger than life personality that gets people just kind of bought in and believing in what they're doing. It's not like it's not like the church. It's L. Ron Hubbard. It's that one person who really kind of makes that difference. But the other thing was how evil and strategic the recruitment blew me away. Like
predatory.
It really is. Like they could go in and say, hey, we're gonna meet tonight at a time so we can figure out how to raise money for this children's charity. And you go in and they plan it strategically when you would normally be spending time with friends
or sleeping.
So, I mean, it was really crazy, like how they start and how they find really influential, really cool, hip people, like to go and start recruiting people in. So here are characteristics of followers. I thought this is interesting because I was like, yeah, Andy might be onto something. I might be able to be a follower here.
75. Let's be clear about something. Okay. We're not anyone. If you've ever been in a cult, if you think you're in a cult, if you're worried you might be in a cult, and you're not sure, these are all extremely common, way normal experiences. Something like people who have spent time in cults or been fooled or duped or exploited are everywhere. They're from every walk of life. They're from every intelligence level. They're from every class, race. name it, every religion, that people are human beings. And this is where we're talking about evolution the last few weeks. Human beings are susceptible to this kind of indoctrination. We're just wired that way. 75% of people estimated could easily fall prey to this. There's something called the ASH test, and I'm just giving this little bit as a foundation. There's something called the ASH test, 1950s. A guy out in Stanford, Solomon Asch, created this test, and maybe I talked about this once before. Shannon, have you ever heard of this one?
Mm-mm.
So the ASH test, you get, if you have a group of people in a room, a randomly selected group of people, and you show them a picture, or you show them a piece of paper, and on the piece of paper there's like 4 lines, and one of those lines is clearly longer than the others, 25% longer than the others, and you ask them which line is one of these lines longer than the others. Are they all the same? Only 1% of people will say no, they're all the same, and who knows why? Maybe they are blind, we don't know. But what he did was he took a group of actors and he put them all in a room, and then he had one unknowing subject, and he'd bring them in, and all of the actors would say, yep, they're all the same. Yep, they're all the same. Yep, they're all the same. And then the poor person who's in the room being experimented on, 75% of people would say, yeah, they're all the same, even though they know. They reported afterwards. They knew number 4 was longer. They knew it, but they didn't say it because of peer pressure. So it was one of the early studies on peer pressure. And I think it holds really true. Very small percentage of the population is ASH negative.
So was it, is it peer pressure, or is it just, did they start questioning and doubting?
It's all of that. Well, that's what peer pressure is, right? If you know something's wrong and your friends are like, come on, jump off a bridge, and you can be convinced to do it, then you're ASH positive, which is most of the population.
It comes back to that word belonging, I think. We as humans are pack animals that want to belong. It's really hard to jump outside that box and blaze a trail by yourself.
That's exactly right.
True, very true.
We are social creatures.
Okay, characteristics of followers. Let's take a mental note. How many do we subscribe to? So dependency stemming from a lack of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, so I'm not always confident, so I'll check off that box. Unassertiveness, hate to say no. Well, that ain't me.
I hate to say no.
I hate to, but I'm happy to when I need to. Gullible. I can be gullible.
No, shut up.
All of a sudden it's making sense why you said I could be following a cult.
You are not a follower,
no.
Colleen.
Low tolerance for uncertainty. Like they want things in black and white. They want it. They do not like living in ambiguity.
That's a tough one.
Why is that a tough one?
Because nobody likes living in ambiguity. It's something you have to learn to tolerate. We all want answers. We want to know the answers to life's most important questions, and we'll never get them. Like we won't even know the truth about what happened in Texas the other day. We'll never know. So you have to learn to live in this ambiguity, or you just reduce everything down to black and white.
So you're not a follower. You're cool hanging out in there is what she's saying. Like you're okay with that. Some people, it gives them massive anxiety. Like some people will be wrecked over this because they can't figure it out, and they will tailspin.
Yep. If they're willing to even stay there, I think most people just veer off to a simple solution for a complex system. Most people will say, well, there's a lack of female CEOs, right? There's more male CEOs than female CEOs, right? That's probably a true statement. Most people say, well, that's because of sexism. Okay, move on. Do you see what I mean? Like it's such a complex answer to that question. Most people will not live in that ambiguity. Like, well, maybe the choices the majority of women make have something to do with the number of female CEOs. We don't know, because that's hard to know. Right. So when things are hard to know, we just avoid them.
But if that leader gives you the black and white answer, you're like, oh, okay, now I'm safe. I'm going to follow that.
Correct. Very, very true.
All right. How about this one? Disillusionment with status quo. You want culture change. Oh man, I want to change the world.
We
right?
all want more. We want more.
I'm like, oh, I don't want mainstream media to do this. By the way, let me go back for 1 second. I took notes. This is a very unusual podcast today. 1, Andrew Levesque quoted mass media. 2, Andrew Levesque did a public service announcement, which is usually Allie, who is missing today. That's usually her job, is to say, that public service announcement. But
what did I say that was a public good? I want to take it back.
No, you can't go back now. You're done. I guess
recorded.
For the third thing.
It is recorded.
Yeah, what are you referring? I need to know.
I'm referring to like 75% of people. Don't worry if you're one of the members, if you followed a cult, if you've done all this. I think that was a public service announcement, Andrew.
Oh, okay. I agree with that. All right.
So, okay. Disillusionment with the status quo. You want culture change.
Who doesn't? Like, that's so generic. Everybody wants things to be better. Like, we want the world to be easier. There's like 5 people that want the world to be harder, and unfortunately they're all in charge. But
oh, another conversation. All right, naive idealism. I totally like this is who I want to be in my heart. It's not who I am, but that blind belief that everybody starts somewhere good. Like, everyone is good at their core. I want that to be true so badly. Like I'm like, oh, positive intent, man, go for it. Everybody has good intentions. They just weren't brought up in the right way. They think they're doing, even like, who was it? Jeffrey Dahmer, when they interviewed him in jail, he said, no, I had to do it. It was real. He thought he was doing something that he needed to do for the good of humanity. I mean, how crazy is that? Eating people that's good for humanity. Like, he had to do it. So how many people are, like, I want people to at least like start from this place of good, but I guess I'm not as naive.
Statistically, insignificant number of people are born bad. I do believe some people are just wired wrong. Their wires are crossed. And again, back to the gun control argument, if you're going to make an argument for why 18-year-olds shouldn't be allowed to purchase, high-powered rifles, the argument there is, well, schizophrenia and a lot of these chemical processes really start to manifest themselves around that age, and that's a universal truth. Right. So by the time somebody is, say, 21, you kind of know this person probably is mentally ill, or there's more information about it. The unfortunate thing is we draft 18-year-olds to fight in wars. So they kind of won that battle when Vietnam vets came home, or when kids were being drafted in the 60s and early 70s, they weren't allowed to vote. So they were being drafted to go fight in Vietnam, and they didn't have the right to vote.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so they won that one. That was kind of a no-brainer. If you're going to draft us, you better let us vote.
Shannon, how old are your boys? They're like
23 and 21.
Oh gosh, how did that happen? Right? I remember we was just going to High Point.
Remember when I was 20?
But I think about that 18-year-old boy, right? A girl, boy, doesn't matter, but 18-year-old child. My daughter's 17 right now. And I'm like, man, they don't have there's still so much, like the frontal lobe doesn't fully develop till you're 25, right? So that critical thinking, decision making isn't fully evolved until you're 25.
I have a 17-year-old too, Colleen. She wants to go to New York City for a concert on her own. I'm like, I don't even trust her to do that. Right?
Well, have her come and stay with us. My daughter will go with her.
Yeah, you trust her. You don't trust New York City.
Great frickin' point. I don't trust New York City.
And when you're telling her she can't go, there's what you have to say. Right? So she doesn't get mad at you.
No, I'm going to let her go because I do trust her. Yeah. Well, yes. That's such a good question.
Mine is 10, and I am dreading this decision making where I have to let go. It's,
My aunt said the coolest thing to me ever about raising children. She said, our job as parents is we have this bow and arrow, and the child's the arrow. And our job is to pull, like their whole life, all we do is we pull back that bow. And if we've done our job, we can let go and they fly straight. And I always remember that because she goes, if you don't let go, they never get to fly straight. You have to let go. And all you can do is spend their first years just pulling back as straight as you can.
So good. So Andrew, I think you nailed the word is trust, which we can talk about throughout all this conversation is, the people that join the cult, they trust the leader. The people that join the cult don't trust themselves, right? So it comes down to that trust. Trust is huge. And can we let our children fly forward? Do we trust them? Do we trust that we did the right? Do we trust that we equip them?
Yeah, I mean, if you did your job, you should be able to trust them. Kids are complicated again, and you may have done your best. And there's a lot of things we don't know that we figure out later. I wish when she was 4, I'd started this, or I wish when she was.
God, there's days where I'm like, I did it all wrong. I don't know how to fix it. It's a lot.
Now, before this turns into a seminar on parental advice, I just want to say one thing somebody said to me that really resonates with me. It's, you're just a character in their life. It's their life. They're writing the book. You're just a character. And, I feel like with most kids, if you just use a very light touch and you kind of stay out of the way, they'll figure it out. That's most kids. It's not all kids. Some kids need a little bit more, intervention. And then there are people that just need to be told what to do all the time. And so I don't know.
Those are the ones that join cults.
Those are the ones that join. 75% of the people need to be told what to do all the time. But we're back to government schools and the culture that we live in, we're creating dependent people. We're creating people who are dependent on the system for everything. And it's not good for humanity. It's just not healthy.
There is something about, as you know, I'm like absolutely kind of fascinated by organized crime. And can we just have a moment of silence for Ray Liotta too, who was apparently snuffed out in his sleep the other night. I don't know. No.
I heard he killed himself. Did he kill himself? We don't know.
I don't know. I don't think there's any answer. They said there was nothing nefarious. There's no crime involved. So
he looked like a guy that he looked like a guy that probably had, and I think maybe I even heard this. Did he have problems with alcohol?
I feel like I heard that a while back. I feel like I heard,
but
I haven't heard anything about the
67 years old. He's too young.
Yeah, absolutely. But he made us love gangsters, right? Goodfellas. Like, I don't know how we were talking about movies the other day and just didn't mention Goodfellas. I mean, Goodfellas and The Godfather, everybody's watched those dozens of times, right?
Yeah, 100%.
One of the few movies. But you look at this, you look at organized crime, and personally, because I write about it, I study it. I love the connection that people have, that loyalty. Like, you think about family and just feeling of belonging, just it to me, I was saying, I don't think it made it into the podcast last week, so I'll say it again. Sammy the Bull has his own podcast. And as I'm listening to it, I'm like, I love how committed he is to his brother and his brothers, his family, like each other. There's this, and I think we all want to find, our home. And so maybe some of these cults, as we go through some of these cults and you look at, the Koreshes and the Charlie Mansons of the world, like, are these people just trying to find their home?
Gangs are just another extension. I mean, the mafia is organized, at least in classical literature, it's organized in a hierarchy. There's a charismatic leader. You have to do what they say. You have to do what they say, even if at the cost of your family and friends. You're financially and emotionally and psychologically completely committed to the whims of the leader, or you're out of the family, or you're, worst case scenario, they roll you up in a carpet and throw you in the river. Also not something to be avoided, right? So exploitation, all the three main factors in cults are there in both your mafia and also all gangs, they all have the same thing. Gangs are just pyramid schemes, but they, tend to be more violent.
Yeah. So true. So, hey, I was, originally we kind of picked what we were going to look into and what we were going to follow. And I was really kind of fascinated by this whole celebrity cult thing. Like Hillsong is one of these churches that Kevin Durant and Selena Gomez, Chris Pratt, Justin Bieber kind of all joined. And then when that, like Carl Lentz kind of, he's this hipster pastor, kind of this not really a good looking guy, but not that matters, but he really obviously charismatic. When things went the wrong way with him, a lot of them left and went to church home. Same thing, but when I was digging into these different churches and so-called cults, it was fascinating to me that I didn't really disagree with a lot of their beliefs, or like I could see, I disagreed with a lot of them, but I could see like, okay, this is just a church, this is just a little different way of believing than I believe. And who am I to judge that? There's nothing crazy.
Colleen, we established last week that you actually believe everything that the Church of Satan believes. So we can.
That was awful. Allie too.
I know.
That was awful. We need to push that little segment out.
That's a total digression. You had said something, and I'm digressing further, but we have to bring this up because you keep saying Shannon's in a cult, and I don't know what that is or what you mean by that.
Hey, I do think there's some business cults, right? And I think
kidding
Shannon,
me, most of them.
There's a book about how to make your business into a cult, and I think she's in one of the biggest ones.
Which one are you in?
So the world of network marketing, MLM, they've been linked as cult type communities. So, I could see the connection. So looking at it through my lens there usually is the charismatic top or the charismatic mission, right? And then, I wrote down the characteristics of the followers. Like we do get a lot of, we call them the 80%ers. I might shift it to the 75%ers.
That number's loose. You gotta, I do research. My research is like, an inch deep. So.
Okay. So I can see like people are coming in, myself included, my confidence level has gone through the roof since being in this industry, where when I first started, I had none. And not none, but it's a vast difference. And you could see how easily it could spin off the rails.
Hey, Shannon, I think your story is fascinating. We can cut this out and not ask you at all, but
I love my story.
Sharing your story. This is
my
craziest. Story. Yeah, it's fascinating to me.
I don't know how it.
Well, let's delve into who is Shannon.
Who is Shannon? God,
she's
fucking deep at 8:58.
You have no idea.
Who is Shannon? So I don't know how to answer that quite yet. There's so many layers, but I'm here, honestly, I feel, and here, maybe this makes me, I am here to change the world. Or I don't say change it. I'm more here to wake us up. Like, I believe, you asked the question, Colleen, are we innately good? I believe, yes. I believe we are born innately good unless they come through and there's like a DNA glitch or something where that it is wired the way it is fucking wired, and all the
Shannon, where are you on lizard people?
I don't know about lizard people, so
well, unless they find out that there's lizard DNA that's complicating things in the human race. That's what I'm very
thinking. There's some lizard shit in us.
I'm very worried about that.
Are you seriously?
Yeah.
Did we have some lizard DNA?
This is when we need to put the video out.
So I believe. Yeah.
You familiar with the concept of a red herring? I'm just going to keep banging you right off your topic.
Yeah. All right. That's cool.
She doesn't know what to do with this crazy Andy.
I'm not doing it on purpose. It's just I can't help it. Go ahead. I'm very sorry. So
what's the topic?
See?
All right. So first of all, I want to say that I do think there is some value in cults, and that sounds crazy, but I do think sometimes finding your tribe is really important. Now, hopefully you find a good tribe, right?
Well, that's what was going to be my question. Can there be a healthy cult? Can there be good cults? Like the cult is definitely connected to a negative connotation from the extreme. And there's probably the spectrum, right? Like everything has the spectrum. The cults that we all know about that are killing people and asking people to kill themselves and stealing people's money and shit, like that's extreme.
Christianity started as a cult. I'm sure Judaism started as a cult. I'm sure Islam started as a cult.
I think it's when that leader shifts into like only ego, if they're narcissist, it's when that gets, shit falls downhill. So
that's a great point. It's when does the leader shift?
When does the leader
when does the message become dangerous?
Mm-hmm.
Shannon, is there a charismatic leader in charge of your group?
Yes.
So there's a clear hierarchy.
There's a clear leader.
And what level would you is there like a leveling up process in the group? Sort of like Six Sigma, where you've got your different.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. Yes.
And where are you ranked, if I can ask?
I'm pretty high.
Pretty high up.
Pretty high.
So
I'm in the top 20.
What's the mission statement of the group?
So our mission statement is we're the mental wellness company. So we are here to shine light on mental wellness. We need people to start thinking about mental wellness. It doesn't mean mental illness. Like we can always improve our mental wellness. So that's what we're here to do.
Shannon, I think, I think you're part of a really good organization, and I think you should celebrate it. Like, because I think you're doing some really good stuff. So don't,
I'm so proud of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have no shame. I'm cool if it's a cult, because our mission is so purpose driven, and we're standing, it's grabbing traction now. I've been here for 3 years. I think the company overall, since first thought, is about 5 years old. People weren't talking about mental wellness. We had to come out. And Colleen, back to my story, which I'll share if you want to hear it. I am a total introvert, shy. People are like, you're shy? I was like, well, I'm not as shy anymore, but I had to get really uncomfortable to come out and share this mission publicly and be seen. First of all, I didn't like to be seen because I just didn't have my confidence yet. And then to share the message around mental wellness was that people weren't talking about anxiety, depression, suicide, bipolar, all the things. So
you're can I interject with some questions, if that's okay?
Sure.
So you're saying mental wellness, so you've listed a few well-known disorders. You're raising awareness that there are more people than we think that have these disorders. Am I summing that up?
Yeah. For sure.
Say more about it, I guess.
So there's a spectrum, right, of mental wellness. Let me share my story really quick. I'll do like the Cliff Note version of this because it will all make sense. So about 12 years ago, out of the blue, I'm a young mom. I'm home with 4 kids. I have 4 babies, 8 and under. And a lady popped out of our hot tub committing suicide. And we found her. It was shocking. It was all the things. And she was a stranger. We did not know her. She found her way into our backyard, and she triggered PTSD in me. So
Oh my God.
I went into full-blown anxiety, paranoia, digestion issues, sleep issues, anxiety. I'd never had anxiety before. So this was all triggered. So I know PTSD super well. And I heard this little whisper. Remember, I told you I hear shit. And it said, don't medicate this, Shannon, because you will feel better, but you won't know when you are truly back to Shannon, and you'll be on this for the rest of your life. And I love.
Did you feel responsible for what happened somehow?
Well, let me tell you what happened, which exasperated the PTSD. I did not feel responsible for it, but what people were so like, what? Like, that's the craziest story ever. So they kept coming at me saying, why you? Why your house? Why your backyard? And I do not believe in coincidences. So then I started to be like, what the fuck? Why? And like, that just exasperated all this trauma in me. So I didn't feel responsible, but I was not ignorant to the fact that there was a purpose here, right? There was something, otherwise it would not happen in my energy field at all. So,
amen, sister.
So fast forward, I go on this healing journey. I want it natural, and because I wanted to get back to me. I didn't want to just be okay again because I'm medicated to be okay. I wanted to really get back to who I was. And so I'm on this journey, and I was so intrigued by what happened to my digestion. I would eat food and it would just come out. I was like, what the hell is that? And so I went to get certified as a health coach just to explore what was all that about. And then from there, I graduated, and somebody introduced me to the book Flip Flop CEO, which is a network marketing book about having time freedom, about being able to create recurring income, do it from anywhere you want. And I'm a freedom junkie. I hated school. I ran away from kindergarten. I was like, I do not belong in this institution. So I was like, I'm going to align that with my business model. I really didn't know anything about network marketing other than it could create some freedom for me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all in. I'm going to marry my health coaching with a freedom model. And that's how I got into network marketing. So digress. So back to, so I started with one company, a natural nutrition company, great, super reputable. And I was about 80% better. This is like 8 years into my healing journey. I would say I was digestion better, sleep better. I still had brain fog. I still had anxiety every single day. And I was like, okay, maybe 80% is cool. I can hang here. Like, this is not so bad. And then I was seeing this fellow health coach showing up on social media, and she was teaching about how to run a successful network marketing business, which, by the way, 90% of people don't know how to do. And that's another reason it has such a bad rap. But so she had figured it out. And so I was watching her for business. And then all of a sudden, because I didn't want to leave my company, I loved it. And the cult, right? It was my tribe. And when I was like, oh gosh, she's so smart, she said something finally like, well, to get these systems, you have to be on the inside. I was like, oh, I got to get on the inside. Mm-hmm. So I said, well, what exactly are you doing over there at this company? And she said, oh, we help people with anxiety and depression. I was like, what? Fuck, that's where I belong. Like, that's my mission. I wanted other women, moms too, right? I was a young mom. When I realized that brain fog and being exhausted wasn't because I was a mom, it's because something was not connecting inside. I was like, I need to get this story out. I need to help moms not be medicated. I need to help them get their energy back. I need to help them realize they're more powerful than they think they are. And that became my mission. So when I joined the mental wellness company, who up until now, the science wasn't there, I realized what happens when you have trauma, and stress is a spectrum. So we all are on it. because we are humans, and the PTSD is all the way the extreme. And so I was down here. So I had all those things: brain fog, digestion issues, sleep issues, anxiety, some depression. And what I learned is that when you experience stress or full-blown trauma, and it can be any kind of trauma, it doesn't have to be this, what we consider trauma. It could be someone freaking wronged you big time and blew your energy chakras. That's traumatic. Your microbiome gets wiped out like a wildfire. And your microbiome is all the bacteria in your gut, and they create all your neurotransmitters, your serotonin, your dopamine, your GABA. No freaking wonder my brain went crazy on me, right? Like everything went nuts. My digestion went nuts. My brain went nuts. And it wasn't until I discovered the gut brain axis through our company that 8 years, Andrew, that I still hadn't repopulated my microbiome correctly from the original trauma. That's how long it took me to figure it out. So once I got on these products, anxiety was gone. I was like, shit, it was the missing link. So
what's so interesting about what you said? So you said like this whole, the anxiety that you were feeling, anxiety, depression, and when this, the message that they delivered is, I can help you with that, right? And as I've been studying this whole cult strategy, they go to like, and this is not really a good segue because it sounds like I'm saying something that I'm not, Shannon, but forgive me. But they'll go to like a grieving support program, and that's where they'll recruit, because they know the message of everybody at this grieving support is you need to help end the pain, right? Or they'll go to like they'll go to these different communities, knowing exactly what they're looking for.
People.
Right.
So
not weak people, but people who are searching for
vulnerable
is a good word.
And they're missing one thing. And so in these support groups, they know the one thing that person is missing. Like, so in a grieving support group, they're missing that person and they need to get past the pain. So they'll go into this widow group, and they'll say, hey, listen, we have something that's going to help you get past the pain. They know everyone in this room. And it's so strategic like that. It's fascinating.
Well, it's marketing, baby. Like, we're in business, right? So I do have a story. So this, and just to finish that lady's story, she was bipolar, that committed suicide. She hated being on her meds, and she took herself off. And I was like, holy full circle. The woman that woke me up to my journey, like, I'm so grateful for her. She got me on my journey. She smacked me upside the head and was like, girl, you're supposed to be out there serving, and you're not. You're hiding here as a stay-at-home mom. And so she was my messenger that came through to say, if you're not awake by this time in your life, Shannon, boy, I'm going to come through with a freaking 2x4 and smack the crap out of you. And she did. And full circle, I was like, oh my God, if she could have this science and research on the gut brain axis back in her day, maybe we could have helped her with her bipolar. Maybe she didn't have to be on those meds that she didn't like being on. And fast forward to one of your questions that you asked earlier, Andrew, I was in private health coaching for several years. And I'm not kidding you when I say 80 to 90% of women are on anti-anxiety meds. Like, almost everybody coming through are on these prescriptions. Right? And this is how I see it. I mean, I could go 1,000 different ways with this. Let's go back to the cult thing. So I will say,
I do want to say though, and I think I represent Allison and I, who's not here, but I do believe things like that, like, are put into your life to, you know what, they're hard, you go through them, but you learn something from that. And now I think it's purposeful. I think God brings things like that into your life to help you help others.
I've served thousands and thousands and thousands of people now that I wouldn't have done without that experience.
Right.
and hoping to reach millions. You know, I do have a very large team, and together we're rippling massive. And so I want to share this story because there are bad freaking seeds, you know, and like, I know my heart is pure. I know what I'm trying to do. And my goal is of service. But we had somebody that she's a narcissist, big time. I knew it the minute she came into the community. I was like, you know, Colleen, I read energy. I'm like, something's up with this one. I don't trust her. So I was super validated when it all blew up, right? Like she flew right past me, beyond me to the top. And she does some shit and she gets booted. And she's over now. She picked another company and she is coming after. She knows how to come after and hit that vulnerable pain point. So she's stealing, we steal people in the cult. She's recruiting people from our company that she knows exactly what their pain point is. And not because she's like, you're not being served here. She's like, come join me, because the narcissist needs people around them big time.
Oh, we could have our first female cult leader. Let's offline. Let's
Not
write
the
down
first
her
one.
name.
Oh, no.
Wait.
There's been many female cult leaders. Come on.
Besides me? No, no. Who? I don't really know of any.
Just one that pops into my head. Very recently, Elizabeth Holmes, Theranos was a total fucking cult. I mean, Elizabeth Holmes.
I guess, yeah, I could see that. I can see that for sure.
There was some. If you look, just Google it, Colleen. There's lots of
All
female
right.
cult leaders.
All
Women
right.
are just as
I
good at
retract
being
my
cult leaders
comment.
as men.
I retract that.
Not
but
all cults,
I think Shannon just identified someone who is our next female cult leader. I think we should watch her.
I have two thoughts. Two thoughts. Number one, not all organizations that use cult indoctrination tactics are inherently evil.
Agree.
Yeah, agree.
Okay.
That's something that we can agree on.
Number two, I think I have discovered through Shannon has come into my life for a reason at this exact moment, because I now know what it is I need to do with my life. I did not know, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a marketing company that helps cults become better at being cults.
That already exists.
And I already know who my first client is going to be, Small Business USA.
Interesting.
This is meta. You interested, Shannon? I need your energy.
Yeah.
And I want you to help me fix my microbiome as well, because I do believe in that. I don't know what I believe about it, but I do think there's,
oh, this is so cool. So
we live on this planet by the leave of our microorganisms. We're only here because they allow us to be here. It's not the other way around.
This was wild. So I just came back from 7 days of training, and what our doctor said is, in the future, you will be able to check somebody's microbiome, which is your gut bacteria, trillions and trillions of bacteria, and specifically say, okay, this is how much life you have left. This many years, months, and days. You will pass on this day according to your microbiome. If nothing outside.
Man. Who the hell wants to know that?
I know. Do you want to know that?
No. Yes, I do, because we now have the science and the research and the products to, unless you start this microbiome regenerating process that will extend it.
How can this be proven or disproven, I wonder?
That's up to him. He's a scientist.
Oh, through science, you can prove or disprove. I mean, you can.
Well,
it's
really like Alzheimer's,
things.
right? You can't prove an Alzheimer drug works, because although they're doing this really cool thing, but because you don't know how fast it progresses differently in everybody's life, right? So they can't tell. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no way to tell if an Alzheimer drug works. That's why they're put through.
No, that's not entirely true. It's like any other kind of drug, Colleen. If you put it out there and then instances of Alzheimer's go, decrease over time,
Well,
You
first
can
of all,
say there's a correlation, but it's not necessarily a cause.
there is absolutely no correlation because every single human being, it has a different path with dementia. So you can have 100 cases of Alzheimer's and they will all progress at a different rate in a different way. So no,
Do you want to know the biggest link to Alzheimer's? Sleep issues.
Mm.
The brain detoxes when we go into that deep sleep cycle. And guys, that's the other thing. Like we're 80-90% of people on anxiety meds. So many people not sleeping, and that is vital. Like we think it's not a big deal to not sleep, but that's when our body goes in full repair mode. And they can tell from the microbiome. This blew my mind too. Parkinson's, you can tell in the gut 20 years before the tremors show up. How nuts is that?
Really?
Like the tremors are the last, like by the time the tremor comes, but they can detect it if we are monitoring this microbiome.
I don't know. I don't know if you can tease that apart from what Google does or what any other, Facebook or any of these other companies do. I don't know if you can tease that apart. They could be saying that they're learning that from the microbiome, but in fact, every time you take one of those "I'm not a robot" tests, Google doesn't just track your information, they track your mouse movements.
Yeah.
So they know, let's say on Tuesday, my mouse is moving nice and smooth. And then the next Tuesday, something changes just a little tiny bit. It can detect the tiniest change. And I don't believe that's a conspiracy theory. I think that's really real. They test how fast you type. They can tell every keystroke, every swipe of the mouse. So yeah, they could be selling you something on that, but I am
fascinated.
Your microbiomes are off on the day that your keyboard's moving slower, and they're like, "Wow, we're onto something." He had some shitty food last night. And
what about fecal transplants, Shannon?
Oh, I was gonna tell you, poop. We talked about poop doping and fecal transplants.
Oh, yeah, I want some like Lance Armstrong poop.
Oh my God, he came up and Dr. Sean was like, "Okay, so Dr. Sean's an elite athlete. He runs 100 miles for fun." Ironman, all the things. So he runs in that world and he's a cyclist. And he said, so would the ideal poop doping be Lance Armstrong? And I said, everybody's like, yeah. And I was like, no.
Cancer.
He has testicular cancer. Fuck no, I don't want that shit. Literally.
Tom Brady, maybe.
Tom Brady. And South Park did a whole episode, by the way, about fecal doping. They did a whole episode about it. And Tom Brady was the subject, and it turns out Tom Brady has been saving every one of his poops since he became a professional athlete in jars in his house.
So then the other thing we started to talk about, well, do you take on their personality, right, from the fecal transplant, because they say he's an asshole. So we concluded, hell no to Lance Armstrong's poop. But then we were like, whose poop would you take? Oh, there was a study of sisters where the one sister needed a fecal transplant. Either her immune system was a hot mess or something. I forget the story of why she needed this. And they went to the sister for the transplant, and they did that. And then over the course of the next year or so, the transplant person gained 30 pounds. And she's like, I haven't done anything differently. I haven't eaten differently. My exercise not different. So they started to they were researching well, why could this be? It came out that the sister was 30 pounds overweight. So the microbiome will dictate your
bunch of fat ones, like a little bunch of fat
fuckers. Yeah, the fat cell, the sister's fat receptors.
Just eating Funyuns and sitting on the couch, just fucking off, not working out, just lazy.
Did you know your microbiome determine your cravings because they're alive, right? They're bacteria. They feed off of certain.
Yeah, they get addicted to sugars or whatever.
Yeah, the unhealthy ones do for sure.
I wonder if the same thing applies for stem cell. Do you see that? Stanford just did this. They actually had a reversal of Alzheimer's they took the stem cells from a younger person and put it in somebody with Alzheimer's. And they actually saw a reversal.
And we're back to lizard people.
Why are stem cells so different than microbiomes for you?
I guess, I don't know. I'm not that knowledgeable on all the science, but it's cells versus bacteria, right? So
Yeah, tell
What's the
me, Andy,
difference in
how
those?
is like, why does one evoke this response from you?
Because of the globalist pedophile reptoid adrenochrome swilling lizard people that run the world. They don't give a shit about microbiome. They just want that adrenochrome.
Oh, I have heard of that. So do you think the leaders are reptiles?
Yes.
Okay.
In a word, wait, let me think that one through. Yes.
Sorry for the pause.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, this has just gotten so
Prior to
ridiculous.
COVID, if you said there were lizard people that were secretly in charge of everything, I would have been like, nah, you're out of your mind.
Well, my husband loves following the whole alien world.
Oh,
He would get in on this lizard combo.
let me tell you
I
about
think there's
aliens.
I think this whole alien thing is fascinating. Like that the United States has actually acknowledged that there's UFOs and
They haven't
Yeah.
acknowledged aliens. They just said we don't know what the fuck
Right.
this is. So I will sum up the alien conversation if you'd like. I can do this. There are two possibilities. There are only two outcomes in the range of possibilities right now. Number one, what we are witnessing with regard to the UAPs and UFOs and the information that has recently been released by the Pentagon and verified in all kinds of media sources, what we are seeing is either one, a conspiracy on a global level between government, intelligence communities, mainstream media, pirate media, the FBI, the CIA, the Army, the Navy, the British government, the Australians. We're seeing this conspiracy of on a level that we have never ever experienced before. It's so competent what we're seeing. We're not used to this level of competence.
that's a pretty big stretch. All of
Right.
these people involved in one conspiracy theory.
Exactly correct. Or number two, fucking aliens. That's
Mm.
the two. Those are the two possible outcomes at this
Mhm.
point, because there would be too many people saying, "Nah, this is all bullshit."
I
You
think
should
we're
have Tommy
too-
on for an episode talking all things aliens.
Oh,
I would
really?
love
Yeah,
to.
it's not my wheelhouse, but he would have some
Stop talking
things
about
to say
these
about this.
other things. Hey, Colleen, if
Mhm.
you got a fecal transplant from an atheist, what would happen?
You know, I think my faith is strong enough that I would still be
Shannon?
spiritual.
Shannon, what do you think? Is her
I
faith
don't
strong enough to
know.
overcome her microbiome?
Well, so here is what we know is it creates our neurotransmitters, which is everything our brain is, reflecting and thinking. So could it change the thoughts? I don't know. I know that it can, I don't know. That's a great
What can go wrong?
Let me go back, Andy. Are you offering me your poop?
I'm well,
I think the better question is whose poop would you want?
not for free.
And we're wondering if you could like collect a few different people's and like create a cocktail. Like
That could be
very
dangerous.
athletic.
But
That
Shannon,
could be very Frankensteinian.
what can go
Yes.
wrong with poop doping?
You could gain 30 pounds because your sister's shit is fucked up.
Oh, there's one.
So I can
externality.
so only poop dope from thin people. That's the one thing I've learned
Yes,
today.
we're gonna have a poop checklist. Are you thin?
Are you thin? Are you of above average cardiovascular health?
Does everyone in your family live to 105?
Can you collect about 6 ounces of your poop
Oh gosh.
safely?
They
I
did
do
a
think-
study in rats. So there's a study, right, in the rats that they can take an obese rat and take its microbiome and put it in a skinny rat. That skinny rat gets fat, and vice versa. They can take the microbiome from a skinny rat and transplant it into the obese, and that rat gets skinny.
I'm assuming they're controlling for amount of food the rats actually eat.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
101.
So my sister has MS. My mom had MS. And so I did offer her my poop because I think genetically, I would be disposed to
Be a
MS
good
as
poop
well.
match.
And I think I would be a good poop match. And she had some choice words for me. She was not.
No,
buying
is
into
this
whole poop thing.
real? They actually
this is a
brought
true
this
thing.
up. Fecal transplant to help
Well,
with autoimmune.
there's some tests. There are some tests and some studies about MS that they thought that they're testing this in England or something like that. And I was like, oh, Kath, well, this only makes sense. I obviously would be a good poop donor. And she just didn't find this amusing at all.
Yeah, I don't know, man. See, I'm always open to the placebo effect. I'm always open to the possibility of that. Not to say that the results aren't real, even when the placebo effect is fully engaged. But I can tell you that you cannot discount it completely, because if someone is going to shove a gigantic syringe full of shit up my ass and blow it out,
Ugh.
I better get better.
You can take it in pill form too, I
better get better after that.
Hey,
so
Shannon,
what's the fun in that, though?
Is this an experiential podcast? Because why not go test?
No, this is purely,
you don't want to be our tester and we come back in 6 months and see what's what?
I would, but we speak purely hypotheticals here. I'm not doing it on camera.
No, you can do it off camera, but
you gonna send me some pills?
Practice. Do you want mine?
I will join your cult if I lose 50 pounds. I will join. Not only will I join your cult, I'll turn over most of my assets.
Most of my assets. Okay.
Good choice of words.
And then you'll teach us how to market well.
I'm extremely influential. You should know that. So you want me on your team? I'll be a number one. I'll bring in so many people.
Wait, let's do it.
It's the whole point of this podcast. Yeah, send me some poop pills and I will take them.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so not agreeing with this conversation. So this isn't one of those moments, but I do think that we should.
What don't you agree with?
Saying,
yes, tell us, Colleen. What don't you agree with?
I'm not.
Are you
really
questioning?
Sure.
Are you questioning my leader? The leader is very wise, and you would do well to listen to the leader, Colleen.
I was thinking
I can help with autoimmune, Colleen. It's my wheelhouse.
I was thinking, though, that we agreed on probably 3 things today throughout the day. And so we should have this little thing like a drinking game. Anytime we agree on something, a new person should subscribe. We should.
Oh, I love that.
Every time we agree, an angel gets his wings.
I thought we were drinking. I'm a little disappointed.
It is 9:00 in the morning.
It's 9:23.
It's 5:00 somewhere.
People,
though.
is time real? We can go in that whole conversation. Is time even real? Like who put the stamp on? It's only 9 a.m. You can't.
Well, I had a dinner party last night, so I think I need to give my body a few moments to readjust.
Time is a prison. That's all time is.
Fake as shit, man.
Yeah, man.
This podcast is getting deep.
So deep.
Like
time is eternal.
Like a giant vat of Tom Brady's poops.
Deep. Oh God, we had some funny conversations this week. That's for another podcast too.
Hey, thanks for listening to You Can Say That Here, baby. Is this a good place to end?
Yeah. Yeah, this was fun. Shannon, this was great. Thank you very much for sharing your story.
Star.
Yeah. I enjoyed your story very much.
For having me.
Fascinated by your cult and what you do. And I hope you send me some poop pills. I'm serious.
Wait. Are there poop pills?
No, we don't have poop pills yet.
But they're coming?
No, I don't think so.
Oh.
Because
that's just let us down.
Andy, no. What we have is we have microbiome pills, but it's not coming from other people's feces. But we will help turn yours up a notch and optimize yours.
All right,
so that people actually this is what's going to happen. People are going to want your poop because you're so optimized. And you're like, I want some of that stuff.
I hope they like beer and Skittles.
Yes. I'm not opposed. I'm a chocolate girl.
I had this. This woman who I had no idea was married. I've known her for like 3 years. I see her all the time. Ran into her in a restaurant the other day, and she leaves and she goes, "Oh, I have to go get my husband beer and Snickers." I'm like, all of us, we just stared like, "You have a husband?" Nobody cared about the beer and Snickers. It was just like, what? Like, how have we known you for 3 years and didn't know you were married?
I want Shannon to come back and tell us why she thinks humans do things that we know are bad for us. That's a question I ask everybody.
Oh, yeah, I have the answer for that.
Okay.
You'll have to have me back.
So that'll be the cliffhanger ending, Colleen.
Mm-hmm.
So good. You're so good at this podcast thing, Andy.
Well, I'm really just trying to get free microbiome pills.
Even though we've clarified they're not poop pills.
I'm carrying a few extra pounds, and I have literally tried everything over the last 10 years. I've tried everything except diet and exercise.
So here's where it's at. That's old school thinking too, that go do better to be better. And I'm like, that shit don't work. Like, we don't want to work out and eat well when we feel like crap, right? So I'm all about feel better and then you'll do better. Like, if we can instantly get you more energy and more motivation and firing on all cylinders, well, guess what? You're going to feel like moving your body, and you're going to opt for a different meal than the shitty meal, because you're like, I don't want to feel shitty today. I'm feeling so good. I want to feel better. I'm going to opt for that. So we got to reverse that.
Speaking of shitty, do you remember that woman a bunch of years ago now, that was on Oprah, and she just imagined everything she ate, she would poop out, and that was her diet plan, and she lost like a ton of weight. And she said she didn't change anything except the fact that every time she ate, she imagined she would poop out everything bad. And she believes that the power of her mind pooped out all the fat. I mean, boy, this is another poop-filled episode.
I believe that could happen.
We should change it to Talking Shit with Colleen, Andy, and Shannon.
Talking shit. I'm doing a podcast on Friday. You guys, we have a new product coming out. I can't exactly say what it is, but I can tell you the title of the podcast is going to be Sex Talk, Not That Fake Shit.
Nice.
Oh. On that note.
Okay.
Peace out.
Thank you very much, Shannon, for being here. Colleen, as always, send me the files. Please
like and subscribe.
Don't forget to
add the sound effects this time. Oh, do we have new music?
I do have a virtual instrument that's called the flatulator.
Ooh.
It's essentially
very appropriate for this episode.
It's a synthesizer that makes fart noises. It's kind of useless, except maybe for this it could come in handy. We'll try it.
It might.
Oh my God!
It might be the one.
My daughter got this fart machine for her Christmas gift or something one year. It was ridiculous. Probably Santa probably thought it was hysterical, right? But then we go up to Vermont. We have this big group of people all going up for the weekend, and we kept hiding. It was a remote fart machine, so you would push the remote. Oh my God! I don't think we have ever laughed so hard. We kept hiding this thing around the house, and for like an entire weekend. I mean, sometimes it pays to be juvenile. And
why are farts so funny?
They really are.
I don't know. I mean, it's going to make the fecal transplant conversation much harder to have, because it's just fucking funny. On top of being something we should take seriously, it is just funny.
We can be serious and funny.
I was hanging out with this woman who is way probably one of the wealthiest people that I know in my circle, and everything is just perfect about her. She's an older woman, but she is just so well put together. Everything just fits. It's custom made, just beautiful. And she let out the biggest fart. And I'm
Was it Nancy Pelosi?
No, I have better stories about Nancy Pelosi than farting, but that's for another podcast.
All right, let's
see ya.
Let's go now before we get sued by Nancy Pelosi and the.
Well, you're gonna cut that.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome, guys. Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Shannon, you were fun.
I could shoot the shit anytime.
Yeah, loved having you. And no F-bombs, only one, I think. I mean,
I was bad.
I
said some.
Well, he gave me permission. I heard his, and I was like, "Oh, here we go."
Yep. Well, be good. Thank you.
Bye, you guys.
Ciao.
Have a nice weekend.
Peace.
You can say that here.